Support the Amigos podcast and keep the Amiga goodness flowing for just $1 a month. Visit our page at patreon.com/AmigosPodcast.
Amiga, the first personal computer that gives you a creative edge.
Amigos, the podcast about everything Amiga. Amigos is a proud member of the Throwback Network, your home for quality retro podcasts. And now, here are your hosts, Aaron Dowdy and John Bodovkar Schaller.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to Amigos. I'm John.
And I'm Aaron.
And today we've got a double header.
Double
Two
trouble.
Amiga games for your entertainment. We've got Virocop and Yo, Joe.
I like to call this episode, They Flew Under the Radar.
That's an excellent title.
Yeah.
Aaron, we got some feedback from last week. We got one new iTunes review.
Oh.
Yeah. Andy Craig, who's also a new Patreon supporter.
Beautiful.
From the USA. Welcome,
Right.
Andy Craig.
Wow.
He says these
Everybody
these guys know their stuff and have such a great casual flow that it feels like you're almost with them on the sofa chatting about the good old days.
You are practically.
You are. You're right here with us.
I don't do anything that's not casual. That's that thing. I can't be not casual.
That's our podcast middle name. I
Yeah.
can't be not casual.
We should, I just said we should call our podcast Under the Radar this week. Every episode we should have a name.
Okay.
Like a drama. Has a name.
I do. I mean, you mean like name the podcast something different than...
No, like a theme.
Okay. Well, I'll leave you in charge of that.
Okay.
You come up with the theme.
I think the theme should be casual.
Okay. Well, just look at me. Can you get any more casual?
I can get less uncomfortable.
All right, Aaron. It's time to roll on to the Amigathon update. So...
It's amazing after several weeks after it's over, you can still have updates. Yeah, people want to hear what the hell happened to you,
But
bud.
we're counting down. It's less than 350 days
Oh,
till the next
God,
Amigathon.
no.
So, yeah, I am recovering well. I did watch the show last
Are
week.
you sure
and
you're recovering well?
Hey, some people recover better than others.
Yes, clearly.
And I want to thank Brent for stepping in and covering the show last week. I listened to your recap. It was mostly accurate. My PC is still down for the count. The motherboard is on its way here. It turns out that Amigathon did not do my computer in. It was my own incompetence, which is the story of my life. I fried the motherboard accidentally by trying to add something to it that I shouldn't have. And so
Wheels.
we are recording light this week on the old laptop where it all started. This is where Amigos all started, with just the
Yes.
laptop and a dream,
This
baby.
really takes me back.
So anyway, and of course all my surgery recovery stuff, everything's going fine. I got a couple more days left until
What kind of surgery was that again?
This was hernia surgery.
Oh, okay. I was
Hernia.
making sure I didn't miss something. in
No.
there.
I mean, the hair was mostly that was mostly a post-op, I believe what they call it. It's like you're already in here before we send you home.
Uh-huh.
Here you go.
Did you get that done at some under-the-counter clinic somewhere?
Hey, you knocking? You knocking?
Well, I'm
the
just
new
saying.
dude?
I mean, I may want a new do too.
I'm telling you, you go over to the Stonewall Jackson Memorial Hospital in Weston, West Virginia. They'll set you up with hernia surgery and hair transplant, two for the price of one.
What a deal.
So, anyway, I'm doing great. Let's move on. Amigathon. The rewards are coming. I am currently awaiting the postcards that I've ordered. They shall arrive soon in the mail. So if you ordered a postcard, or I'm sorry, if you pledged enough for the postcard or the magnet and you sent me your shipping address, I will be getting out those to you next week. So look for them in the mail. Yeah.
We're good for it, man.
Yeah.
Checks in the mail. Now Boats usually he's a shipping machine, but it's unfortunately when you get floored.
Yeah.
Also, you gotta wait for him to get here.
That's right. I'm at the mercy of the postcard supplier.
That's right.
Aaron, it's time to move on to this week's Amiga News.
Amiga News. Okay, well, the Amiga News this week was generated by our site, effectively. I didn't really see a whole lot going on, so I have some news that basically sprung from
Your loins?
The Amiga. Well, hey, that's news right there.
That is news.
But no, there's only a little tidbit of this, and I don't think we covered this one when me and Brent were sitting in the what do you call that room?
Amigo Studios
the
East?
Amiga, no, the playroom with all the Amiga stuff, the beautiful drawing that we said.
Oh yeah, the yes.
See, you blew the gimmick right there because we were going to pretend that's a real place.
Well, it is. It's an annex
No,
from
it's too
Amigo
late.
Studios
It's
East.
too late. You dropped the ball on that one. So anyway, I can't remember what we recovered because it was just wacky. Doing this show with Brent, and he felt the same way. It feels weird. So there you go. But of course now I'm feeling kind of weird. So I never thought Brent would be looking good. So if I covered this bit of information, just forgive me because you all know that my brain's tapioca. So we've got one little piece of news here. There was a game that was Grave of Monsters sent over this link. You got this on yours. It's for the Mega Twins. I have not played this. Are you familiar with this at all?
No. No.
Yeah.
Is this a port of a?
It's a game also known as Chicky Chicky Boys.
Well, sometimes you just gotta change that name. That's no good.
I mean, I've heard of this, but I don't know, and I'm not 100% sure what the scoop is on this because it's been so long since I looked at it. But
Okay,
it's linked up there.
Here's the deal.
Yeah.
He posted a link to the ad. It's not
No,
a new
but
release.
I looked at it.
Okay.
I looked
okay.
at whatever this was a week ago and commented on it, but I don't know what it was.
All right.
So anyway, if you feel like going down the, what they call it, the rabbit hole, then hop on in. So the rest of this news is straight up us. And Grave of Monsters also had a comment. We're going to come back to that. So, and I think me and Brent may have mentioned this, but we're going to mention it again because actually Dreamcatcher sent me a little note. I know we mentioned this. So Dreamcatcher, our good and dear friend, put up a script called Spider Fan Fiction, and one of the reasons was that the YouTube, I thought, had been banned, blocked.
Right.
So DK informed me that it was only blocked in Canada for our Hoser pals. Now, I clicked on this a while back, and it would let me watch it, and I'm not in Canada. So, and see, there you go.
Yeah.
So
sorry, Dreamcatcher.
Yeah.
It's blocked here in the good old US of A.
Yeah. So
also.
I don't know what's going on here, but but hey, I've had this happen myself. Who knows why?
It was when you were uploading some of your previous stints as an adult film
Listen,
star. Some of that stuff is still under copyright.
I was young. I needed the money. You know what I mean? Now I'm old and I need it, but no one will hire me. So moving on to another Dreamcatcher joint. This is a game that I actually had played called Leander. Have you looked at this?
Yes, I have.
What did you think?
Well, I didn't realize that this game existed, number one.
Psygnosis.
Yeah.
By the way.
And this doesn't really seem like a Psygnosis style game. Now, I know that they didn't actually develop it. They just published it. But it's yet another... I guess it's like a lot of Psygnosis games in a way that it is fiendishly difficult, and most of the cool stuff in the game you'll never see because you're not good enough to get there.
Thank God for cheating.
Yeah, but and the story is also very, very convoluted. Dreamcatcher tries to break it down, but I was lost by about paragraph 2. So
I'd heard of this, but I don't know if I ever played it. I seemed like I had a cup of coffee with it. But you know how that goes. This is barely news. But you can see my celebratory stance someone put us over the top. And
are those the goggles that you wear when you're working on the instruments?
That's right.
Yeah.
No, I wear those all the time.
The only time you don't wear the goggles is
on
on
the
podcast.
show.
Yeah.
Because the reflection and whatnot.
Well, you look dumb, and I mean, who would want to look
What are you
dumb on
talking
this
about?
show?
You telling me I look dumb right there? You're telling me that? So we passed the 300 mark on the Google Plus channel. This is an incredible feat.
This has got to be. We are definitely in the upper echelon of the Google Plus communities.
Google Plus just shut down something. I'm just waiting for the day where they're like, "Yeah, we're sweeping all this crap out." There are a couple big retro-related Google Plus pages. We're not one of them, but we are bigger than a lot of them. So
Bigger than some, smaller than most.
Yeah.
Amigos, everything Amiga.
Yeah. I know. I bet I covered every bit of that before, but I didn't cover it with you, so we had to go back.
I understand.
And cover it because I wanted to get your input.
Yeah.
So what do you think about stuff so far?
I think it's great.
How's the news so far? You liking it?
I love it.
Beautiful. Let's just push the last show we did, which is me and Brent. We covered Jurassic Park. Brent made a Jurassic of himself while we were on the show. Now, he did a pretty good job, and we had a look at it. And it is what it is. I'll let you, the viewer, decide if you didn't see last week's show. But we thank Brent for coming around. Did you see my new shirt, by the way?
I do. I love it.
And yeah, I like that too.
Yeah.
And Teresa got me that for Father's Day. Isn't that nice?
I always thought he was the 9th wonder of the world.
8th. China was the 9th.
I see.
Yeah. I don't think she is anymore, but you know what I mean.
Well, neither's Andre's.
Well, there you go. Fair enough. Also, since we're talking about the big man himself, the Brentster, me and him covered the beloved by us, the Tandy Radio Shack TRS-80 color computer. And
your love for this computer was well received because you spent a good amount of time breaking it down, far more so than any other system you've ever covered.
Let me explain. I assumed that this would be something that people would know the least about.
Very true.
And so
I loved it. I loved every minute of it.
So now on the proper news here, this article made me pleased and happy, and delightful. So a few weeks ago, I came across it's been about a month and a half ago, probably 2 months. I found out about the, you want to try to pronounce that? Slogan.
That's Salsgon.
Slide, thank you. The 2018 demo party, right? I just put this up because, man, demo party. Got your Amigas there. Mm-hmm. And sure enough, our good and dear friend, the Fig himself, went to this thing and sent us in a blow-by-blow report.
Yeah, so we should give credit where credit's due. The text was actually written by Reflection, okay?
Yeah.
And the photos were provided by Figgy, but I'm sure that Figgy had a hand.
Yeah.
In
Fig, I've got Figgy and Reflection written on here because it was double trouble.
That's right.
So I read this thing. And it looks like, I learned a lot about this particular demo party because apparently it spun off some bigger demo parties where the demo party part of the party had fallen by the wayside to gaming. Mm-hmm. And these guys were like, hey, what about the demo?
Right.
And so they split off and they had this thing. And this thing they have a ceiling, 150 people. That's all they can hold.
Wow, so this is like an exclusive event.
And they filled the joint. They had no more room. In fact, they go on to say that the place was so full of equipment and people that they're walking around in some areas at some points. But these guys went out. They ate waffles with some kind of Norwegian brown cheese and something else I remember reading. I was like, okay. And then there's scenes. Like, we're looking at the scenes go by here, just guys just hanging out in front of where this thing is, just chilling.
Right.
They got tents set up. They're just out there. It's almost like
it's like Woodstock for demos.
Yeah. It was a good article, and we appreciate those boys sending that around. Because, hey, coverage.
Yeah, and this is something that you don't get too often around here. I think the demo scene is so much bigger over in Europe.
And if you read the article, they talk about there's a vampire. See, I was wondering what this would have in it, right? Because, we love the Amiga, but I've always thought to myself, you've got these Amigas with vampires right now. Do they have a place in these scenes? Because are the true purists going to allow this stuff to go on? What about other computers? What about PCs? Well, this thing had a bunch of different categories that involved all kinds of different stuff, and it was really interesting to read.
I think that's really the way to do it. You've got so many different types of Amiga, whether you're running stock hardware, where you've got a vampire, or even if you're doing one of the like MorphOS or something like that, they've all got a place. Give them all their own categories.
And not just Amigas. I think they even had like some old
there's C64 stuff on there. Mm-hmm.
Hey, demo, just bring everybody.
Yeah.
Bring the kitchen sink, throw it in there. So we appreciate them sending that in. It's a good read. Even if I'm not Commander Demo. I know it's hard to believe, but I do like to have a good read, and I watch demo now and again, and so it's neat to see these guys. They're super talented, and they're doing something that very few people do.
Now, let me ask you a question.
Yeah, okay.
When was the last time you ate a waffle?
Okay, probably a couple months. I've never had one with Norwegian brown. I asked him, it's like, because he mentioned this, and he said they had waffles, and this, I think he said it was a brown Norwegian cheese. Mm-hmm. Which I don't think I've ever had that.
No, me neither.
And so I've never eaten waffles without syrup.
Right.
But apparently, even in this country, there's a plenty of people that don't eat them like that.
There's
including you, right?
You get the waffle with the fried chicken.
Right. I've heard that, but I've never done that.
It's very good. Very good.
It's just not my thing. I'm not saying it's bad.
Well, you've never had it before.
But I like syrup on there. I'd be thinking, hey, where's the syrup?
Well, you could always add syrup. People often do.
And then what syrup tastes like on chicken? I don't know.
Think about how great syrup taste on anything.
But yeah, but chicken?
Yeah, because it's fried chicken. Think about dipping you get chicken nuggets with honey. You dip it in that honey. It tastes
I don't like
good.
honey.
I don't even know you anymore.
Yeah, I'm sorry, man. Sorry, honey. I guess I should actually got two last items here. So we released, after some research and delving into and exploring, BoatBit was able to get me over some of the Amigathon, so I was able to cut it up. And I think what we're going to do is release this thing in hour-long episodes, and we're going to just release them every so often.
It might be longer than an hour.
It depends on when the game is.
It also depends on which of us is going to be cutting it up.
Well, we'll talk about that later. I can see your. Well, I thought we had an agreement, Boat. Dadgummit. So, anyways, I'm going to cut them into an hour. When Boat does, he can do whatever he wants. But I've stuck one out. It's up on YouTube now. It's the first hour. Now, I've got the second one almost ready to go. I thought I was going to have it posted by now, but having some technical difficulties. The next one, by the time you hear this podcast, it should be out. We're not going to release these one a week for in all eternity. It'll be a 2 or 3 a week probably, depending on how quick we can get them out. With a butt. Do you want to talk about the butt?
I can't remember what the butt is.
No, there's not going to be 24 1-hour episodes.
Oh, right. So that we lost the last 4 hours of Amigathon. There's no other way to say it. YouTube streams everything, and up until this point has archived everything that it's streamed. We were definitely streaming the full 24 hours, but when I hit stop, YouTube cut the stream off at about 11 hours and 56 minutes. That leads me to believe that YouTube can only have the power to archive a stream in 12-hour chunks, which is something that I thought I looked up and I thought that was not an issue, but that's my only explanation for it. Unfortunately, I was also recording, and OBS cut off the stream at the same time too, so it might be an OBS issue. I don't know. There's not very many people that stream longer than 12 hours at a time.
It's the first time we've
What
ever
we
done
probably should have done is just stop the stream every 4 hours and restarted it just to make sure we had everything.
There's a lot of things we should have done.
Yeah, there were lots of paths left untrodden.
Now there is, and this part of the reason we wanted to bring this up is, and this is a long shot, but on occasion people will record these YouTube streams. All right, if anyone out there recorded the show, the Amigathon, and maybe for later consumption or whatever, and they have a copy of the last 4 or 5 hours of this thing, drop me a line, or drop Boat a line. Give them the address there, Boat.
Amigos at amigospodcast.com.
Right. We'll swag you up if you can get with us. If you can find these last
the
4
missing
hours.
4 hours.
Even if you just got part of it. If you got like an hour, that's cool. Send us that. Well, I mean, send us a note and we'll talk.
I mean, this is already escalated to the level of the day the clown cried in terms of obscurity.
Yeah.
It's going to be a hard thing to find.
We learned a lot about. Oh God, I forgot about that movie. We learned a lot about streaming and cable modems and computers and
life.
Yeah, it just. I don't know how many. I'm sure there's been hundreds of other YouTubers that have done 24 hours or longer, but I don't know who they are, and I didn't talk to them. Probably should have, in retrospect. But we didn't think it was going to be a problem, and it was a fluke. I don't know what happened. So anyway, and the 4 hours that we lost, it may be if you were there to see it, you may be.
Among the
lucky
privileged
few. I guess that's lucky because I can tell you the last 4 hours went by. It was a brutal. It was a death march.
It was the low point of Amigathon.
Yeah, we were beat down, man. I can't remember where that 4 hours started. I mean, I know when it started on physically, but I don't know what game it was on. Do you remember what game?
I can't remember.
So
it was shortly after we did Killer Bees, I think, or not Killer Bees, but the Casey Munchkin game.
Yes,
so,
that's a bit.
That was a high point, and then things just sort of went downhill after that was over.
That's a bit of news that me and Brett talked about. You want to share any thoughts about that awesome release?
Other than we're going to be doing it for Amigos next week.
Right.
We're going to cover all 3 of Gary James' games. I didn't grow up with Odyssey 2. So I don't have a long and storied history of playing KC Munchkin, but just firing it up and seeing our faces right there on the title screen,
that was nice.
Boy, that was great. I've never seen a game on a retro system that has the option to change between the old and the new graphics with just a button press. I've never seen that before on a retro system.
Well, it was awesome, and and he picked a great game. And Gary, I've got a few tips for you for the next one. I've got a couple heavy hitters I'd like to see come next. But man, Casey Munsk, if you're an Odyssey 2 owner or Video Pack owner, was probably the best game, or the most. It was certainly the most highly touted and popular Odyssey 2 game, and so that was awesome. And we appreciate Gary giving that to everybody, and in the name of the Amigathon for charity. It was nice. So.
Yeah. Thank you, Gary.
But yeah, overall, I mean, all that aside, it's not like this thing was just a disaster with the missing footage and craziness. But it actually went pretty smooth, except for that couple-hour lull. So next year we'll be a year wiser and a year older.
Yeah,
but,
or dead.
I feel several years older after that last one. Let me see if I've got anything else here on the docket, Boat.
Oh, we got one more thing.
We do have one last item. What do we have? What do you got?
Well, the insert disc 2 that just went up this week.
Okay, yeah, that's what I was going to talk about.
Okay.
Go ahead.
So I interviewed the one and only Ravi Abbott for Insert Disc 2 this week. We talk about Amiga. We talk about his work with the Amiga and music, his new YouTube channel. It's going to be focused a lot on music, plus the work that he's done with the Retro Hour and all of the heights that they've scaled over the past. They've been doing the Retro Hour almost as long as we've been doing Amigos.
Yeah.
I think they said they've been doing 133 episodes.
I thought the other day, if the Retro Hour had existed before we started this, I wonder if we'd have done it.
Well, you wouldn't have wanted to do it no matter what. So.
Well, I mean, I'm just thinking, because that was the reason I was like, man, there's no Amiga podcast. Another one is the Amiga Rama is a tremendous Amiga podcast. Lafarius does it, and who's always around with he was there on the Amigathon, and he's a real nice guy, and his show's really. I mean, I would, if these shows had been out, these quality shows, I don't know if we'd ever even got together to do this show in the first place.
You never know.
But it's awesome. It's we're cooking. I had long trips this week in the work car, and I had plenty of stuff. I listened to I listened to Robbie's new show. I listened to Ferry's new show. I was set up, man. I was living large.
It's a glorious time. There's always room in the tent for more Amiga action in the podcast world.
We need more.
Yeah.
I can't get enough. Yeah. So yeah, good. Thank you, Robbie, for coming around.
All right, Aaron, it's time to dive into this week's games. Now, would you like to start this week with Virocop?
No, let me take the first run here.
All right.
Because I'm excited about this. Now, first thing we're gonna do, like I said, we're doing 2 games this week, and these were both. Do you need something? You need to jump in here?
No. I'm wondering what you're doing because
just shuffling papers.
Well,
around.
yeah, because I need to queue up the video here.
Oh, I'm
Remember,
sorry.
I produce in real time.
Well, I understand it. I didn't know you wanted to go off. But then, by all means, you go off with Virocop.
Okay.
By the way, how did you pronounce that?
Well, let's talk about this because you are of the ilk to pronounce things in a strange way. Most humorously was your pronunciation of pterodactyl on the.
Listen. It was. I told you. The guy who typed that in, that I read that, he had it all spelled all jacked up. It wasn't me.
That's definitely what it was. So
I know someone corrected me on last week too on the Jurassic Park thing. I'm like, listen, I'm only sort of dumb, not entirely dumb. But
now, however, I will cede that I pronounce this game incorrectly, but I enjoy pronouncing it. I'm sure it's Virocop. I just like to say it Virocop. It's sort of continental that way.
If you look at the docs for this, which I read the docs. Right, and I've got plenty to say about that when we get to them. But the guy's in there killing viruses.
Right.
He's not killing viruses. You know what I'm saying?
I understand. Virocop it is.
It's also Geiger.
All right, man. Kick it off. I'm going.
What? Oh, now the switch.
We're ready.
It's a switcheroo?
Yeah.
So what are we doing, Yojo?
No, I thought we were going to do Virocop.
Okay, Virocop.
That's why we just spent 5 minutes talking about how to pronounce the name of the game.
I can't tell what you're doing. Okay, we missed 1 week and
it's already going off the way. Yeah.
Okay, so who was it? Do you recall who requested this one?
This was a Paul Harrington joint. Thank you, Amigos Game Selection Committee member Paul Harrington.
So, Virocop, or whatever, however Boat pronounced it, debuted in 1995, developed by Graft Gold. Now, we've come across them at least once, haven't we? But I looked at what they'd done, and I couldn't remember doing any of these games.
Well, I always thought that this was the guy from DuckTales. Wasn't that his...
I didn't watch DuckTales.
I thought that his name was Graft Gold or something like that. The villain in DuckTales.
I know we've come across these guys, but I looked, here's what they did. And tell me if we did one of these, and I don't remember.
Okay.
They did Empire Soccer 94. All right, we didn't do that. Fire and Ice. Did we do that?
We haven't done Fire
Okay,
and
I
Ice
didn't
yet.
think we had. Super Iron Man Stewart Super Off Road.
We've played that a ton of times. We've not
Maybe
done a
we
show
did.
on it.
Did we do that as like one of those arcade shows?
You know, we might have.
I bet that's it. Paradroid 90, Iridium 2, and Realms.
Of course, you know Paradroid. That's a very famous game.
This is Paradroid 90. I don't know. And again, I've not played the Paradroids. I know they're famous on the C64, right?
Yeah.
So of course, Virocop. I played the AGA version. Did you play?
I only played the AGA version.
Now I looked at what the differences were. Right, just to see what they are. From what I heard, one of the major differences is the AGA version adds an extra level. So it's got like a 5th level that the non-AGA versions didn't get. And also, it's just supposed to run better. The guys that you could tell this was like a late release because they put stuff into the game to accommodate people that had more tuned up machines. If you've got more memory, it'll make your load times quicker. It'll let you install it to a hard drive.
It's got 2-button pad support.
It's got
Dorset support.
which is helpful.
Yeah, very
to say the least. So this is what it's also got a pause feature. You get the help button pause. This is what should have been the standard right out of the gate.
Yeah.
When you're playing games like this, you want 2-button support. You want various options. Various play options. It's got. If you look at the keyboard controls, there's tons of them. I mean, they have a ton of different keyboard controls. So they do a good job of making this an accessible game. It was published by Renegade. Renegade published a ton of stuff over the years, including the Chaos Engines and Amazon, Fly the Amazon Queen God, Sensible Soccer, tons of stuff. 3 discs. There's like a play disc and a couple data discs, I believe is how they're labeled. It was I'm trying to describe what this game would be. It's sort of a top-down 3D perspective. It's a unique game. That's why it's hard to explain.
I would
give it a shot.
Yeah, I think that it's the most apt thing you can compare it to is it's like Robotron or Smash TV, except their perspective is more zoomed in and it's got more of a 3D isometric look, even though it's still top down. It's not a 3/4 perspective.
Well, I mean, Robotron? What was the other thing you compared it to?
Smash TV.
I wouldn't compare it to those at all.
Okay.
Actually, because this goes into levels where you've got elevators and platforms. There's ramps that jump over walls. It's getting around is a lot different than those, and also those are more manic than this.
It's a pretty manic game.
It can get more manic, but it's not nearly as manic as Robotron. Come on. How long has it been since you played that?
Even when I played it all the time, I was never any good at it.
Who is?
Yeah.
You have to be a real stud. So right out of the gate, the first thing I picked up about this is and we should have tried this on the Amigathon when we played it. Is it has two player options in it. There's a sort of a your turn, my turn thing, but then
a
they've
hot
also,
seat, as you
that's
say.
right. They've also got something. I remember I used to play a game on the Atari computer that did this. That let one guy drive the robot, the other guy shoot.
Well, there's a very famous arcade game. I think it's called Fire Engine. One of the very, very early games that is the same thing, where one person drives and the other person shoots.
Now, I like this stuff, and you'd think to yourself, well, that wouldn't be much fun just shooting. You're really with the when you're playing like that. I didn't get to play like that. I wish I had.
Mm-hmm.
I watched. I read the stuff, but I mean, you can't really get a feel for it. But it would be that. I used to do it on the Atari. It was a lot of fun. And the guy firing, you could get in fights with the guy. Steer left, steer right. Why didn't you shoot that?
And having the multi-weapons, the different weapons to choose from, really makes it.
It would actually be probably a lot easier doing it that way. There's also the option, if you're froggy, for one player to use 2 sticks. Now there's your Robotron or your Smash TV. I didn't try that.
I didn't try it either.
But because I didn't have my other stick out, I sort of packed up. But that would be pretty cool.
Now, did you ever get this to work on the actual 1200? Did you play this?
I did.
Okay.
I did.
So it loaded without. I mean,
I had to use my discs.
Okay.
I couldn't get the hard drive version to work, but I did get it to work on the 1200. So Graph Gold has this is sort of considered part of a series. Did you know that?
I did not know that.
Now it's a tough jump here. Graph Gold has a game called Quasitron for the ZX Spectrum. and they've got a game called Magnetron for the Spectrum and the C64. And Dave, it looks a lot like one of the characters in those two games, and there's some feeling amongst fans that Dave is part of the part of those games.
I always thought Dave is the guy, the name of the robot, right?
That's right. That's exactly right. So this game has an awesome backstory. I want to get into this because I watch a lot of Westworld. I love that show, and I used to watch the movies and stuff too. So in this game, if you read the documentation, this woman runs, or this person, I don't think it's a woman, has she's in charge of this thing called, I think it's called the game disc or something. But whatever it is, it's a basically like a virtual world where people go on holiday from their house, like a virtual reality holiday, and they go to this world that people, according to the story in the manual, this company was the first to come to market with this thing where people could go on these virtual vacations from their home, and they go to stores, they buy a ticket or whatever, and they go home and they go on these holidays. And what's happened is when this story picks up, something's making several different worlds in this huge, I guess sort of like a Westworld thing. It's a huge, basically like a virtual amusement park. They've made several of the areas in it get screwed up. And what they find out is that a virus has gotten in there, and it's causing all kinds of weird stuff to happen in this virtual world. Mm-hmm. And so there's only one thing for it. They've got to send in Dave. Dave is the digital armored virus exterminator. Okay, Dave is going to go in there and clean up these viruses, and so that's where you come in. Now you play Dave the robot who's sent in to sort with these viruses, and so I love a lot of this backstory. I mean, it's pretty intricate for backstory for what you're doing, but there's a lot of unique aspects to this game that fit right into the story. I like the as you roll into these worlds, like the first world, the first set of zones is based on sports, right? Billiards and golf and whatnot, and soccer, I think, or football.
There's a long jump.
Yeah,
there's all kinds of different objects.
And so what Dave does is he goes in and he blows away these viruses, which are just little baddies, and he'll pick up little stuff. And some of the things he picks up are basically like letters and numbers. And what you're actually doing, which is cool, is you're actually picking up what at the end of the level will eventually be the passcode for that level.
Okay.
It's very clever.
I didn't realize that. I had a hard time finding. I looked on both. It seems like I looked on Lemon and I looked on Hall of Light, and I could not find the docs for this. Do you remember where you found this?
I don't.
Okay.
I don't.
It's possible I was looking at the wrong version of the game
disc.
too.
That's the name of the world. So the first series, this thing has 4 stages, but there's 5 if you got the AGA. All right. So the first stages are based on sports titles, like I said, and these are the ones I played the most because I couldn't get very far. It's not an easy game, but this would be a lot easier with 2 people. Then you've got a section on military simulations, and you've also got one on fantasy RPGs, and one of the things in the game that's amusing, and I unfortunately I watched some of the playthrough, but I never really got this because I guess I'm not as up on my Graph Gold properties. But apparently, a lot of these different sections have kind of callbacks to some of Graph Gold's other stuff. So I think that's kind of cool. And then when you do the last stage, which is the AGA only stage, you're basically in a giant computer. Mm-hmm. And you're going through there trying to take out the main virus and finish it off.
Now that I actually understand the story of the game, it makes total sense, and it's cool.
What did you think the story would be?
I had no idea. I thought it was just random stuff. This guy's just rolling around, these different areas with no reason. Now that I understand that it's sort of like a holodeck experience gone wrong, that makes the whole thing make more sense. When I was
playing this game, I was like, man, I got into the backstory in this, and so I did. That's why I did sort them out. So. Dave has 3 different weapons that you can select from. I mean, when I say that, he's got 3 different. You can have 3 different loads of weaponry, but there's a ton of weapons. I got a list here of what are available. Now you've got the single shell, which is the thing he's defaulted with. It's just like a gun. The cool thing is when he shoots it, the empties
casings,
come out the
yeah.
side. It's actually
And
a pretty cool effect.
It's
isn't it?
very well animated. I was very surprised that the Amiga could really push all those, because you see every single casing come out. There's
Yeah.
no slowdown. It's really cool.
And then you've got the mortar, and then that's it's like a grenade almost.
Right.
And then you've got a mine. Now when we played these on the Amigathon, that's what you default with. Then you can I love this, by the way. Those numbers and stuff you pick up, they're like money basically. Now there's an elaborate explanation in the backstory for what this is. There's like, oh, you're picking up light pulses that can be converted to energy to get these new weapons. But let's face it, it's money to go to the end zone bank to get the store, I should say, to get more stuff, right? So the rest of the stuff here you would purchase, and it would replace one of the other three things. And some of the things can only go in certain slots. So you've got the three-way shell, the plasma surround shot, missiles, twin missiles, homing missiles, twin homing missiles, flamethrower, plasma weapon, large flamethrower, and twin bolt laser, which is cool. So, I mean, you've got lots of different weapons. So if you're like I said before, if you're playing as two people and one guy, you're like, oh, I'm just going to be the guy that shoots stuff. Well, man, you've got a ton of selection. The store section is really in this really cool, like the way you do it. It's like it looks like the inside of a computer, and everything is spread out along these like circuits. It's really wacky. It's almost like you're reprogramming the robot in a way. I guess that's what they were going for.
Right.
But it's very unique.
It reminds me a lot of, I don't know, maybe it's just because you're a little robot running around on a massive level, but it's kind of got that Robo Rally feel to it.
It does.
Yeah.
It does. A lot of this reminded me of Robo Rally. Moving Dave around is interesting. It's not the easiest thing. I mean, he's there. You have to be sort of precise. There are lots of little ramps, little platforms. I don't know if you played any of the levels that have the platforming. This is not your average platformer. This is more like, it almost reminded me, it didn't really play like it, but it sort of reminded me of the same carefulness you have to have like a Prince of Persia or something.
Wow.
You really have to, like, they don't make, you'd think in a game like this with Dave, they'd make a pretty good size ramp or a pretty good size elevator. But no, they'll make it so it's just big enough for Dave to get on. And so if you take a run at it and miss, you just miss. You got to come back and do it again. You know, even on the first level, I learned pretty straight on that if you can't control this guy very well, you're gonna have a problem. And when you're trying to shoot and control him, it's a pain. Dave can take a bunch of hits. He's got a life meter, and normally the way the game goes, at least as far as I got, is that you at the end of the levels you have like a sub boss you go through, and then there's a main boss that you defeat, and you get to go to the next portion of the levels. Dave is sort of like R2-D2 in a way. He's got his head revolves like a 360, and if he gets killed, it kind of flops off, which is kind of sad.
Amusing.
And the good thing is Dave is not screwed if he gets killed. They will beam him back to the these in-game checkpoints that are usually, sometimes they can be pretty painful, but normally they're not too bad.
The fact that there are checkpoints at all is a plus
Right.
in the world of Amiga. So.
Yeah. I mean, but you don't sort of know where they're at. You know, does that make any sense? They just sort of happen.
And I found now, I played, a limited amount of this game just because I wasn't that great at it. But I found it difficult to understand exactly where I was sometimes when I would be beamed back into a level too. I would have a hard time gaining my bearings because the levels are stacked on different, vertical planks. And
Yes.
so it was a little bit confusing.
Yeah, something else that can happen that can be infuriating, especially if you play the higher levels, is when you fall off stuff and you have to go all the way back around to get up to it, because this is a game with lots of walls and ramps and stuff. So if you fall off like a stair, you can't just kind of hop back up there because you're got to hop. You got to basically, drive all the way back around.
How do you think the game handled the whole, vertical, the drawing? Did you feel a sense of height, as you were climbing the different levels?
Yeah, I mean, it's graphical. I mean, you can tell what's going on. I
mean, it was no Urban Yeti as you ascend to the rooftops in that game.
No, but I mean, it's the thing for me. The most difficult part about this game is understanding the controls, and being in control of Dave to steer him up these ramps, to steer him up into these elevators and these lifts. there's a section where there's sort of like a section that's like a platformer section, right? That I guess that's the game of that section. And there's these little like revolving. It's almost like picture a crane with two arms on it. And there's these little platforms that just are big enough for Bob or Dave, and you have to roll out on them, stop, and then they move like this. And so you could just, if you miss, you just fall to your fall
Right,
all the
or
way
if
down.
you should happen to move the controller a little bit while it's in transition.
So it's, but I think it's not mega. It's not the hardest game I've played, but I mean, I didn't get mega far in it, but I didn't play. I get to play a ton.
Well, the most confusing thing to me, and I remembered this from Amigathon, I remember that there was something that you had to do to beat the boss at the end of the first level.
Yeah.
And,
that was the try.
And what you have to do is you just have to destroy a bunch of enemies. If you don't destroy a set number of enemies, then you just can't beat the last boss.
I think you had to kill every enemy.
Maybe so.
I made sure after that initial appearance, I cleansed the level. It's like in the D&D days. Nothing survived. Yeah, because we got to the end on the Amigathon. We were playing this, and we couldn't leave. We couldn't fight the end. We couldn't do jack squat. And I was like, well, maybe we missed something. We missed one little tiny thing, and that's what it was. So, yeah, Dave can roll right on past stuff. But I mean, I guess you have to clean the viruses.
Makes sense.
That's a virus. So in terms of the storyline, it fits. So overall, though, I really liked it. I mean, this game is another one. I mean, I've heard the name, and it's come up on some lists when we're talking about people that did stuff. But I mean, the quality on this is, I mean, I don't think this ever got any ports or anything. I mean, this is just on the Amiga, and I mean, I thought, man, this is a game that would have worked on a console quite nicely.
Yeah.
You would think that they would have sent it over there, and so. With that in mind, I looked around to see if something had happened or something weird, because something sort of did happen with our other game, but with this one, I guess this is just where they stopped, and that they didn't port it anywhere. So it's kind of weird. What did you think overall? Did you dig it?
I like this game a lot.
Even with the
I thought it controlled well. Obviously, like you said, the controls can be touchy at the higher levels. But I thought overall, I felt like I could move Dave around and do cool stuff with Dave. I like the fact, like you pointed out, that it's not just a Berserk or a Smash TV or some type of thing where you're just moving around the level, destroying all the enemies. I like the sense of height. I liked all the ramps you can jump off of and stuff like that. I was amazed. This might be one of the better animated games, just from beginning to end, of any game that we've covered on this show. The way that, like we talked about, the casings of the bullets spew out, all of the different weapon animations were really cool. I wasn't a big fan of the way the viruses were. It seemed like it was out of place. They look very organic, and when you think about a computer virus, I don't know, I was thinking of something else, but I thought that it was really, really strange that this game did not get ported to other systems, because this game came out in '95, and the Amiga was not doing well in '95. So, the fact that it came out here means that it had been in development for a time before the writing was on the wall for the Amiga, and why they didn't make an attempt. And maybe they did. Maybe they wrote, to all these different publishers and nobody was interested. But I would have liked to have seen this on a console. I think it would have done really well.
Yeah, and this is a really colorful game. It's beautiful graphics.
Yeah, I'm always a big fan of, being in a stage with lots of, like, you're miniaturized and you're rolling around with all, with common everyday objects in your path. Like, I liked the first level I just thought was beautiful. There's another game that I like on the PlayStation called No One Can Stop Mr. Domino.
No, I know. You love that one.
Yeah, that's set in a much the same way.
The graphical, I looked into graphical a little bit. I mean, their stories really kind of convoluted, but they ended up calling it quits in '98. So they weren't around a whole lot longer after this game came out, which I think this is a point in Amiga history where people had pretty much learned how to squeeze every drop of performance out of the Amiga, because I looked at the OCS version of this. The only requirement on this, it has, I think it's a meg of chip RAM is all you have to have. And, I mean, they have instruction, in the instruction books, it fully tells you how to run this on a 1000. And I looked at it, and they're very similar. I mean, the graphics are very similar on the Amiga, the old chipset versus the AGA. So, I mean, this on, if you think about this on a machine from '85, it's very, very impressive.
Absolutely.
You know, a 10-year-old machine is cranking this out with some prowess, and there's not really any slowdown to speak of. I didn't run into anything weird. I mean, it looks like it's a pretty well-honed game. They did a good job. The reviews on it, I only found a couple reviews. Of course, I guess a lot of stuff had folded up by then. CU Amiga gave it an 88. That's tough. I mean, 88, I think this is probably an A title. And the one gave it an 89. I would probably go a little higher.
Me too. This is a definite A for me.
The Lemon people have it at an 8.3, that's pretty high for Lemon. And I think the OCS, ECS version, they've got somewhere like 7.74 or something like that. I looked it up on eBay. Believe it or not, I found discs for sale in the U.S., which leads me to believe that this got a U.S. release, or someone just has imported discs. It was just the disc, $32. In the UK, $50 boxed, and then I found this is a wacky one. There's a sealed box copy in Germany. If you really want to have it, it's going to set you back 173 bones or best offer. So there you go. And there's a box copy in Austria for sale. So there were a few of these out there. I just see so few games coming out of Austria. I thought, I'm going to, not Australia, Austria. So there you go. But overall, I like that one.
Cool.
Personally.
I liked it too.
And it came out of nowhere. When we played it on the show, I was like, You know, I think I'd played it one other time briefly. And the fact that you can play two people simultaneous with the shots, I'll be back to it because me and my kid are really getting into gaming again real hard together right now. And so that one's on the list.
Awesome. All right, Aaron, it's time to move on to the second game of this week.
Double-header action.
Got to get tough. Yo, Joe.
Now, you know, these games actually sort of dovetail or bookend quite nicely together because, like I said, they're both quality games that I didn't know. And this one, really, I'm telling you.
How does it feel when I lower my chair?
It feels like I'm the big man.
Because I feel like I need to cross my legs for Yo Joe.
I like it when you look up to me. It's appropriate. So the full title of Yo Joe isn't Yo Joe. It's Yo Joe. It's Yo, exclamation point, Joe, exclamation point.
And then there's a subtitle.
Beat the ghosts.
Right, which I had no idea.
Yeah, beat those ghosts. So this game came out in '93. So this is a couple years prior to the one we just looked at, on 2 discs. And the developer of this was an outfit called Scipio, S-C-I-P-I-O. You want to try that?
Maybe Scipio?
Scipio, Sippy Cup, don't know.
It almost looks like Scorpio.
And here's something wacky. Published by Hudson Soft.
Yeah, I was very surprised by that. Of course, that's only in Germany.
Right, but I mean,
Play
that's still,
the rest.
yeah, very strange.
Or Blue Byte.
And then Blue Byte, of course, responsible for one of my favorite tennis games. Now, we found out after we started this that it's 2-player simultaneous. We love those, don't we, Bo? And so me and Bo got to play this for a good while, and then, of course, I played it by myself at the house quite a bit, too, after I came up with it. This game, actually, the conversion of this game has an interesting backstory, which I'll get to in a little while, but it was converted, believe it or not, to a DOS, you know, which I
can see it.
I was surprised, actually. I didn't know if DOS could, pull it out. So, Yo Joe, the premise of this thing, I'm just going to try to summarize the premise of this because it's a strange game. The game is about 2 graffiti artists, okay, Joe and Nat. Okay, Nat is player 2. They're always on the run from the New York cops, all right?
As you are when you're a graffiti artist.
Yeah. So they reach a mysterious castle, and so they just go in there because they're hiding from the cops, all right? The goal of the game is to escape the castle and from the bad guy who's named Professor X.
Oh.
Oh, I see a lawsuit a-coming. The players, of course, you have various weapons, and you're basically your goal is to get out. So,
which is weird because I think in the first stage you're actually entering the castle.
You're right.
So you got to get in to get out.
Yeah, I guess you're supposed to defeat Professor X too. Maybe get in some trouble. The first thing I'll tell you about Yo Joe. What's the first thing that struck you when we fired up Yo Joe?
I was struck by it not being a G.I. Joe game.
Right.
I was struck by how well it played. You know, it's a character-driven Amiga platformer. You know how I feel about most of those. This game actually controlled pretty well, even though it's up to jump. I felt like, when I would jump up and grab on the ledges and things, I felt like I could do it. Is that what you're looking for? Or are you looking for something different?
No, that's all true. But the first thing I thought was like, man, I really like this music.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, because I was like, well, man, it's pretty good. Well, the guy that made it, his name is Michael Bialis.
Yeah, Bialis.
And I looked up, I was like, man, this guy must have been a big player. No. As far as I could tell, only thing he ever did was he did a game called Exploit, or X-Ploit. And apparently this guy came from the crack scene and the demo scene, because I found some demo stuff that he had supposedly done for crack screens.
Okay.
There were songs from crack screens that apparently this guy done. He's a talented dude.
I'll tell you, there's something about the music that's I think is very unique among Amiga games, maybe among video games in general. The music for the first level. Think about the average tune for a game on a computer from this time. Before it loops around. What do you think?
I don't know. On the Amiga, probably longer than most. Maybe I don't know. Usually maybe 2 minutes.
Okay,
tops.
2 minutes at the tops.
Yeah.
The first level music before it loops around clocks in at 6 minutes and 50 seconds.
Yeah.
Isn't that crazy?
That explains why we didn't get sick of it, because we were on that level for quite a while.
Right. The music for the last level is 8 minutes long before it loops around. So the complete soundtrack is 44 minutes long, and he fit all of that music into 1,760 kilobytes of disk space.
That's crazy, man. Maybe that's what happened. He spent every bit of energy on one game, and then he was just like, I'm done.
Yeah. I found that one of the Lemon reviews mentioned that.
Yeah, well, it's great. And then you look at your guys. Now, they're supposed to be graffiti artists. They looked to me. It looked like a comedy Elvis, and then one of them looked like just a bandanaed, just some dude.
Yeah. He didn't look nearly as cool as the.
What's the shooting game where the guys wear the bandanas? At Contra or one of those games?
A lot of them they do.
Where they wear the bandanas.
Atari Warriors.
Yeah, maybe that's what I'm thinking of. But he just looked like a dude. But neither one of these guys. I mean, I guess you could be a graffiti artist. I mean, we'll say that that Joe he looks like an artist. I will say that. So the game is based around. Well, I mean, it's a basic. I guess you would call this a side-scrolling. It's multi-directional, I guess, and it's platform game. How about that? With a ton of weapons. Now we didn't even touch on this boat when we played it because we didn't know what the hell we were doing. Did you see all the weapons in this?
Oh yeah, and we saw some of the weapons.
We
too,
saw them, but I mean, there's a ton. Like, let me read some of these things off here. I mean, you've got like a chainsaw.
Not a pole saw.
Yeah, you get nunchucks. You've got what else do we got here? You've got like Molotov cocktails.
Switchblade.
Switchblade. I mean, there's a ton of stuff. And the neat thing is, like, for example, if you're going to use the chainsaw, you got to go get the gas for it. There's ammo for this stuff. So, and that's one of the lasting appeals of the game is there's a ton of different weapons in it. Controls well. The levels have sort of you can get lost. There's no doubt about that, as we proved time and time again. But they were interesting. The bad guys. I mean, it was. The bad guys were sort of standard fare stuff, but I thought the levels looked good. It had a lot of charm. I know right away we went to the bathroom and flushed the toilet. You remember that? Or stood in the shower, or whatever it was.
And all that stuff is animated, so it's cool.
It was so I thought that was kind of slick. And again, 2 players simultaneous is good. Now the game doesn't have any save, but from what I read. You could pretty much just keep playing forever. So I guess just leave the thing on.
We forgot to mention at the top of this that this is also an Amigos Game Selection Committee member game. This comes from Adam Battersby. So Adam, aka Treyguard, thank you so much for choosing this game.
Yeah. There are, like I said, there are a bunch of different levels. We looked at a bunch of these when we played it, and the one that strikes me was the Egyptian level, which was neat. There's a train level that you have to go on, which we didn't get to go to that one. You've got a bunch of like hidden stuff. There's hidden levels. There's in between some of the levels there's a shoot 'em up where you ride those weird birds or whatever.
Yeah, it's very like Lionheart.
Which, well, I don't have to give it that much credit. So anyway, the game runs. It's a long game. I mean, I watched the playthrough, I was like, man, this thing just took forever to get through. And I mean, we played
close to 3 hours.
We touched on like pretty much all the levels, but we didn't actually do very well. I mean, once you get to the levels are tough. But the guy he's for a little mini Elvis. He's got a lot of cool moves. One of the things I did not expect when we started playing this was the ability to pull up on ledges and stuff. There's a lot of platforming elements that require that pinpoint jump. Always the trouble with up, right? Yeah. What did you think about the control in this thing?
I thought it controlled really well.
Even with up?
Like I said before, even with up to jump, I mean, there's nothing you can do about it. It is what it is. I felt like I had a lot of control over the direction. If you're doing a diagonal jump, I never felt like I was being cheated out of reaching a place where I thought I could get to. So yeah, I approve.
Yeah, I would love to have had a button. And through the glory of cheating, you can have a button. I've got my little Super Nintendo converter, and which is what I use to play this, and it worked. It worked fine. The problem is, this is a game where you have to sort of go up in certain areas, and it's not perfect. Let's just put it that way. The jump button being implemented, I mean, it caused a little bit of problems. I'd fall off ledges and stuff. So I will say that as a report. If you're going to try to do that gimmick, your mileage may vary. I'd say on an emulator it'd be better because you could sort of set up to do a couple different things. Right. It wouldn't be as bad. Now this game, there was only a DOS port. So I was doing some investigative reporting on this thing to see what I could find out. And it turns out, through an interview I read with a fellow named Harold Kuhn, I believe his name. This game was made in Germany, and this guy was the guy that did the graphics for the game, right? Among other miscellaneous work. He said this game, there were multiple versions that were going to be released. There was going to be an ST version. There was going to be a Genesis version, and they'd even talked about doing a Super Nintendo version. And the Mega Drive / Genesis version was 90% done. 90%. And then they just stopped working on it. And so the guy doing the interview here asks Harold Kuhn, like, does it still exist? And he thought it did. And he said what they had done, they had rigged up a Genesis or a Mega Drive with a PCMCIe card that they'd soldered to the cartridge slot.
Oh my gosh! So
it was a real crazy rig, and the data was on the PCMCIe card that had been sitting there for a couple decades when this interview was done. So I looked, and there was actually this guy actually was posting in a forum about his progress on this thing, and they tried everything they could to get this date off there, but they couldn't do it. And it looks like the RAM had given up the ghost after 15 years when this interview was done, which was probably God knows how many years ago. So, I mean, this game was probably, the Genesis version is probably gone. And the sad thing is, it was in a playable state.
Right.
So, whatever was left to be done was probably artistic or menu, based stuff. The guy also mentioned that he had began work on a Yo-Jo 2.
Oh.
And from what I've never seen an update for it, since there's a web page for it, and it hasn't been updated for a long time. So I'm guessing
the dream is over.
Yeah. But I'm still, I think this game. I mean, this one came out of nowhere. I had heard of Virocop, but I'd never given this game the time of day.
Now, I want to go back because you haven't mentioned the collectibles in this game.
You're right. Go ahead.
Well, there's two things that you can collect. There's Anks or Onks, as you
God,
call them.
I knew there was a reason you were bringing this up.
And there's also a bunch of like treasure, like crown jewels and things like that.
Yes.
Now, did you find in your research what either of those things
I did
do?
not. I
Okay.
did not.
Okay.
And you're still sticking by Ankh, are you?
That's what the dictionary says.
People out there that are listening to this, how do you pronounce it? Is it Ankh or Ankh? We've always around my parts, it's been Ankh.
Chad agrees with you. Hat Chad.
Hat Chad.
We had this discussion, so
Thank
he's
God.
on your side.
Thank God. Finally, someone's on my side. So, reviews on this game were criminal, if I may be. And I'm going to go into one of these because it really kind of angered me. Lemon gives a game an 8.13, a great score on Lemon. Now listen to some. There's one score in here. So Amiga Power gave it a 91. That's fine. Edge, Amiga, I'm guessing that one wasn't around long. 80. Amiga Joker 80, and Joker will drop the hammer. Now the PC version of this game in a German magazine, the German version of PC Gamer or PC Games go to 75%, not that good. But listen to some of these. You got Amiga Info 50%, High Score 60, Power Play the DOS version 65, CU Amiga 69. So I read some of these reviews, and this one guy was complaining. He's like, well, it's just another average platformer. It's not that good. Nothing new brought to the table. I was like, man, what do you want?
Well,
what do you want?
In '93, I think the entire industry was suffering from platformer fatigue.
Maybe you're right. I don't know.
I mean, after suffering through two Zools
I'm just
and
saying,
Super
if
Frog.
those games get all the glory, and I'll admit, this is yet another Amiga game with sort of a questionable mascot. But how many?
Man, this is probably even past Kid Vicious or whatever.
No,
Kid
it's not that
Chaos.
bad. But the mascots in this are okay.
No.
They're nutty looking.
Yeah, they're definitely better than Kid Chaos.
Yeah, and two players simultaneous. That goes a long way.
And again,
man.
I just wonder how many reviewers had, were doing the tag team aspect of things. They
And that
probably
was-
didn't even think about it.
And to play this with a buddy, that was fun. Wait,
It was. I
That was one
enjoyed
of all the hours we spent. Now, granted, it was the first game
It was
we
also
played.
the first hour. So.
But that's one I remember the most because I was like, man, this. Because I looked at the schedule, I'm like, let's see what we're starting off at 6:30 in the morning. Yo, Joe, oh, this is gonna be death. And I thought, man, this is gonna be garbage. Then we fired it up, and I was like, oh, it's a platformer. Oh, wait, what? Oh, it's good. It's not bad. It's good. So I don't know. I was maybe more impressed than a lot of people, but I really liked it, and I played it quite a bit this week. eBay, none. There was one box copy sold in Italy, of all places, for $116.
It's just amazing to me how these things pop up just all over the world. in different
That's one thing
countries.
I like about the Amiga. It's just
Yeah.
like everywhere. I mean, if you think about it, you see them in Austria and you see them in England, America,
it's
Canada,
funny.
and everywhere.
It's funny for as big as for as large of a contingent of Scandinavian fans as we have, in Sweden and Norway. As you read these things off, these things never get sold in the Norwegian eBay. Maybe
Well,
they all go through O'Brien's.
they
and
hold-
don't get
they hold
listed.
on to their
That's
stuff.
probably true too.
Yeah, or O'Brien's. You might be right. Now, O'Brien always has a good selection of goodies up there. This has got 50% on here. I mean, this really sticks in my craw. Now, maybe they've got one of these crazy grading scales. Amiga Info, I've not heard of, and this was in '96. So this looks like one of those reviews where they look back and are like, man, stuff in the old days isn't as good as stuff is now.
Right.
It's all crap.
Yep.
That really pisses me off, Bode. I'll be honest
Well,
with you.
you are from the old days.
That's it. I demand everyone out there boycott Amiga Info. That's all I got to say about that. Do not read that magazine. They're out
I'm pretty sure they're out anyway.
They're off the
I don't-
Amigos list.
I don't know that Amiga Info is still
until they
printed.
revise that number right there. I demand at least an 80. So that's that. I thought that was a fun one though.
Two good games this week. Two good
Sometimes
games.
you get lucky. We
That's right.
usually get lucky actually.
Yeah.
In gaming. Everything else screwed.
Speak for yourself.
No, yeah, I can see that. There are so many things I could say right now, but I'll just let you do the thing.
So 2 weeks ago, it seems like a million years ago, our last Patreon song challenge took place.
Oh man, was it just 2 weeks? It seems like a 1,000 days.
I know. The winner of that, there was only one. Only one Amigos fan wrote in with the winning answer, and that was the one and only Colin419.
Oh, I know him.
Yeah. So Colin is also a new Patreon supporter of
Thank
Amigos.
you, Colin.
So
Most of the other responses just said in huge caps, "Stop." with a bunch of exclamation points after it.
The winning answer was Werewolves in London.
Werewolves in London.
Werewolves of London. Werewolves of London.
Werewolves in London. Just stop.
I can't even remember what it should be.
Man, Warren Zevon's turned over in his grave.
Warren
right
Zevon
now.
respects my work. I don't know.
No, he does not. If there's a werewolf out there, and it looks like there could be in your backyard, he would be in here tearing you asunder right now.
It'll rip your lungs out, Jen. All right, so
Hit the tree, Jim.
this week we have a new Patreon song challenge. We also have some new Patreon people. So,
Yay!
Andy Craig, Sean Zoe, Darren Lomax, and Colin419.
What was Sean's last name?
Sean Zoe.
Like then Sean space Z O.
No, just one word, Sean Zoe.
Shanzo.
Yeah, Sean Zoe the Magnificent.
I like that.
Yeah.
That's why you got to say it with a little more, a little more fire. Shanzo.
So if you know the answer to this week's Amigos Patreon Song Challenge, please email me at john@amigospodcast.com, and you will be forever enshrined in glory as I announce you as the winner in our next episode.
Is that
So
what
here we
you
go.
Glorious, huh?
Glory.
Uh-huh. All right.
Andy Craig, Shanzo, and Darren Lomax, Colin 419, Bark Bid, Seb Kiernan, Roland Burke, Andrew Monks, Joe the Zombie, John Cook, Dan Ross Leaf, Kilon, Alan Kebab, Donald, Tyler Levelord, John Marshall, Matthew Perrone, Ricky DeRoche, a creepy dead boy, Vicky CTZ, The Slow, Norris, Stefan, Sorgard, Mortensen, Edvin Helen, Blender 75, Christopher Hassel, Ravi Abbott, Chris Walls, Dreamcatcher, Lauren Giroux, Graham Feb, King Brent Dowdy, Lane Dinson, Adam Battersby, O'Brien's Retro and Vintage, Gary Huckasey, Brian Jones, Paul Harrington, Duncan Styles, Alan Kebab, Anthony Jarvis, Tapes from the Crypt, Josh Nan, Adam Bradley, Jonas Rulo, THT, Eric Nelson, Kim Tommy Humbertstadt, Daniel Bixton, Brutal Barracuda, Darren Coles, Jason Warren's Pixels of Dawn, Kjolbjorn Barman.
Look what Grave Monster said. I agree with him. But that was, by the way, that was an ambitious choice, Bo.
Well, thank you.
That's all I got to say. Grave of Monsters. I meant to address this earlier before we go, because I am a man of the people.
You are.
know. Asked us what we were using to run the games during the Amigathon, and I think they also may have asked, someone asked me, it may have been him, what we were using to emulate the Amiga on the Xbox. I'm going to answer both those questions. As we mentioned this last week, but we used every tool available to us because we had to, didn't we?
Yeah.
It was
You
really,
have to have
we got lucky,
contingencies.
didn't we? So we used WinUAE, which is the basis of everything, right? Then we used FS UAE. We used, we used, did we use
we used some company exe
the
files.
company? Did we use the Cloantos?
We did
Amiga
not
firm? We
use
didn't use it, but Cloantos, it's excellent if you're starting out. And we also used, of course, the Amiga 1200, the NTSC one. But on the Xbox, I know someone asked me this. What did we use? Well, we used CoinOps, which is a front end for emulators that is put out by a fellow named Brittany Pears. And if you search on eBay, if you search the web, you'll find CoinOps for the original Xbox, and you can download this in mass. Again, your ethics may vary depending on what you want to do, but it does a good job on playing some of the Amiga stuff as well as a myriad of other titles. So hope that helps. That's the answer to that.
Awesome.
And look at that storm out there,
Yeah.
bud.
Before our house blows down, it's time to wrap this thing
Yeah,
up.
man.
So thank you all so much for listening. We do record this live every week, except when we don't, on both Twitch and YouTube Gaming. We stream simultaneously. I'd like to thank Paul Harrington, Jason Warrens, Grave of Monsters, Necronom, Tregard 1982, Amiga Bang, Colin 419.
Amiga Bang.
Thank you all so much. Everybody else that's been hanging out in the chat with us, thank you for being with us. We really appreciate it. And Aaron, next week we are going to look at 3 titles by the illustrious game developer Gary James. We're going to look at Killer Bees, another look at Killer Bees.
Yeah.
We're going to look at KC Munchkin. Now, you were under the impression that he also did Attack of the Time Lord.
That's right.
Unfortunately, that's incorrect.
Well, he did the European version of it.
Terrahawk.
Yeah, it's the same game.
Totally different.
Good. 'Cause, it's funny. I covered that on ARG a couple weeks ago, and so I'm very well ready to have a chance to go left to the Amiga version.
I'm actually interested to talk about that because I was interested when I listened to ARG when you guys.
Yeah, we're gonna get knee deep into the Terrahawk show.
Yeah,
I'm gonna watch some this week to get fired up for it.
Yeah, we actually should. All right, guys, we will see you next week, and until then,
Adios.
adios.